In this video, I'll go over the inexpensive DIY solar setup on our four-wheel camper and how we avoided drilling any holes into the top sheet to install it. We wanted just enough solar to charge us up daily at minimal cost, and that takes about 40 or 50 amp hours. We just have a small 30-quart high-efficiency refrigerator, and we use a little bit of furnace, fans, and lights, so our power needs are fairly low. We spent about $180 US for a 100-watt rigid panel, a 10-amp PWM charge controller, and a battery selector switch so that we could take the solar offline if we wanted to. When researching how to attach the panel to the top of the camper, especially to avoid drilling any holes, I ran across AM Solar. And on their webpage, they talk about using 3M very high bond tape to attach panels. And they say they've never lost a panel. I'll put a link to their site below. After reading that, I made my own brackets, but theirs looked like a good way to go also. So is this 3M very high bond tape really strong enough to hold on a solar panel? I tested the tape and put those tests in a separate video linked below. I concluded it's plenty strong. However, I wasn't really sure before I tested the tape, so I made some other attachments as backups, and I'll show you those. I still didn't drill into the top sheet. Now let's get into the install. I made my own aluminum brackets from angle material. I made these angle iron brackets with threaded holes because I really couldn't reach under the panel to hold a nut inside the panel. I think you could also use a rivet nut like this instead, and that would be a lot easier. Or possibly even a large square nut, as long as it won't rotate when you screw in your panel brackets. There are very specific instructions for attaching very high bond tape. They involve sanding with very fine sandpaper, cleaning with a water isopropyl alcohol mix, and pressing or clamping at room temperatures or warmer. I'll link to the 3M instruction sheet below and to the supplies I used as well. Okay, here's my 100-watt solar panel about ready to put on the roof of the four-wheel camper, and I've got six brackets attached with very high bond tape, VHB, with some very specific instructions for enhancing the bond. So I've got them on with some pressure for a minute before I put it up. And then I've got my additional brackets on one end, and then some on the side that will screw into the portions of the fantastic fan. This is my do-it-yourself solar panel attachment method. I've got 4 brackets which will be attached with very high bond 3M tape and dichlor sealant, and which according to AM Solar is plenty, but I'm very nervous about that, so I didn't want to punch a hole through the roof, but I got some hurricane ties from the hardware store and made little brackets that go into the side, and then in the middle I've drilled one number 6 hole into my front fantastic fan with some nuts on the inside, and one of my handmade threaded brackets that will go on the bottom lip of the panel there. And then on the other side, again, I didn't want to drill into the roof itself, so I'm using a bolt screw on the back of the Fantastic fan cover, which again we'll attach to a thread bracket. Since four-wheel campers come from the factory with wiring for solar all the way from the roof into the battery compartment, the wiring and charge controller install is pretty easy. The wires are found coiled up inside the battery compartment. For a charge controller, simple PWM charge controllers are very inexpensive for small systems like mine, say $20 to $80, as long as you stay below 10 or 20 amps. I can't find this Sunforce charge controller online anymore, but it has been very reliable for almost 4 years, and I think they make an upgraded one now. A little more expensive are the MPPT charge controllers, but they are reportedly 10 to 30% more efficient than PWMs and can now be found for less than $100 or $120 for a small system. So I think I would consider going that way today. Any of the top solar vendors such as Victron, Renogy, or others offer reliable controllers of both types. A final note, we added a battery switch to enable us to turn off the solar for testing or for maintenance, and I would definitely do that again. Well, I hope this discussion of our simple, low-cost DIY system has been helpful for you minimalist or budget-conscious folks out there. There's a lot of information out there on higher-end solar setups, so I encourage you to explore further and get the system that really fits your lifestyle, if that's what you want. Thanks much for listening.